we are niche creators. In other words, we can create an environment in which we can thrive, and we're social creatures. What happens is we create a niche, and then we develop rules, laws, and policies that kind of jive with that niche. Okay? So you could say that the independent fundamental Baptist movement, and to a degree the Southern Baptist movement on the conservative sides, is basically idealizing 1950s white American values. That's really what it is, okay? And making a religion out of those things. And if you create a niche large enough, you can persist in that kind of thing even though the fitness landscape has changed. Suddenly, when your niche breaks down, you get kicked out of church or something like that, then you're hit with reality, and you have to operate, make ye friends of the unrighteousness of mammon, that when you fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations. So that verse was in the Bible. It's a crazy verse, the book of Luke. So why is that there? So what are you doing? And what's happening when we have rigid, strict first half of life religion, from which people aren't released and graduated as they should be, kicked from the nest at some point, and with the anticipation of having that happen, they think that like nest life is supposed to be all of life for the rest of life, and then one day they get hit with the real world, and then bam, you're not adaptable, and you hit rock bottom, and you crack up, and you die. In our previous videos, we talked a lot about this concept, and so not everybody's ready for the curvy waviness of the way reality really moves around like this. So we try to create these laws, rules, and boundaries, but those are all static and unchanging, and they don't really bend and move around with reality very well, okay? So how do we accommodate for this? What we should do, right? What we should do is separate these things into first half of life wisdom, second half of life wisdom. On the left-hand side, we've got laws, rules, and boundaries. So you need that, laws, rules, and boundaries. And then the second half of life wisdom would be something different, okay? Something different. Now, we want to launch you from the nest, get you out of your cocoon, get you to step out of your shell, like this person here. Step out of your shell, step out of this cocoon that was formed for you, that was enculturated into you by the laws, rules, boundaries. Your shelter, where you're sheltered, you're secure, you have your security blanket. You think you have certainty, and you are in having modes, all these things. But maybe we enculturated you enough to at least make you not a narcissist, okay? That's really, all, like Dennis Prager says, all babies are born narcissists, and it's our job to enculturate the narcissism out of them, okay? So hopefully that has happened in the first half of life wisdom, and then there comes a time to be kicked from the nest. Now you have to navigate real reality on your own. There's no more niche, there's no more shelters, no more security. If you fail, you fail. You will be out there under a bridge begging for money or something else, something like that, or dead or in jail, something like that, if you don't get your act together or keep your act together and behave in certain ways. So it's up to you, it's up to each individual to be able to discern the fitness landscape, also understand what their aim is, what their goal is, what they're aiming for, and be able to make decisions, use discernment, moving toward that goal with awareness and respect toward the fitness landscape in which they find themselves. And Western Christianity has done a very horrible job of producing adults who have this, who leave the nest with this skill set, or at least the awareness of the need for developing the skill set with them. We've done a horrible job of that, and we're kicking people out of the nest who have no business being kicked out of any nest, and they're not adaptable at all. So in the first half of life wisdom, I'm going to use the words judgment and discernment. I realize that if you look them up in a thesaurus, they could be interchangeable in some cases, but for the sake of this discussion only, okay? And most of the time on this channel, I am going to use the word judgment for the sake of this discussion to talk about someone who's following a script, someone who's following a formula, and they're basically doing simulated thinking, all right? What's simulated thinking? Let's say you have a 4th grade, 5th grade class going around and you're having the kids recite their multiplication tables, but you have them do it one at a time and you throw out random multiplications at them. What's 9 times 12? What's 9 times 9? What's et cetera and so forth. And these kids are standing up and they're spouting off the answer. That is simulated thinking. The answer has been memorized, it's prefabricated. You know that 9 times 9 is 81, you know, that kind of thing. There is no, oh, what am I doing here? What's the function? How many times am I adding 9 to get to until I stop? Why are we doing this? There's none of that thinking going on. You just learned that, 4 times 4 is 16. That's what you're just going to say. You're just going to say that. It's simulated thinking. If you want to hear an example of simulated thinking, go to J.D. Martin. If he puts out any videos on YouTube or Facebook, everything that comes out of his mouth is simulated thinking. He's like a computer just spouting this stuff off. Anytime you hear James White talking about theology, simulated thinking, spouting these things off. And that's real thinking. What is that? That's Isaac Newton inventing calculus for the first time. Okay? That's developing a law of gravity. That's thinking. Okay? So when I'm talking about judgment, what's usually happening with a stage 3 fundamentalist Christian is they encounter some kind of novelty and they run it against the script or the formula of all the rules in their system. Do you want to go to a movie? What's the rating? It's rated R. Sorry, I can't go. Rated R movies are against our rules. Is that discernment? No, that's judgment. I've just compared a feature of an item that was possibly available to me to the rule set of my religious tradition, and then I've given an answer based on that. Did I do any of that thinking? No. I just married up the relevance, spit out the answer like a mediocre computer. Not even a very good computer. Okay? And that's the problem with systematized left hemisphere thinking. We basically make mediocre computers out of people. And that's all that's going on. And you're checking off a list. When something happens, should you do this, should you do that? You just go run it back against the rule set, and that very easily tells you whether you should or should not do the thing. There's no caveat in there for whether you find yourself in a zombie apocalypse or if you are a spy in a foreign country having to bend some rules a little bit in order to not blow your cover. How many times would a undercover police officer maybe need to do something compromising his core inner values in order to keep his cover? That's interesting. What are you trying to accomplish? What do you value more? Is there a right answer? Can you pre-specify the right answer for what they should do for that? If you ever watched 24, the main character, he's a good guy, but when he's undercover somewhere, he had to actually do heroin, all right, to demonstrate that he, wasn't a square, to bring back a word from the 50s. 50s called and they want their word back. Over here on the right-hand side, when you're learning to navigate reality, you're going to do something called discernment, and that's actual thinking. And that is difficult to pre-specify because, I can give you a lot of examples. And one of the main examples we might use in this session today is just thinking about this situation at First Baptist Church on Bayshore in Niceville, Florida, where Debbie and Marcia were kicked out of the church, okay? What were they doing for 5 years? When did they decide to employ the use of this channel to go public? What about the decision making of the deacons? What about that of the pastor? What about that of the church body? For those, we have a lot of, if you're watching this channel for the first time, we've done a lot of videos on this church, okay? Where these people kicked these women out for trying to stand for the gospel. Because it's, we get into all the reasons. Well, the problem with standing up for the truth that you are committed to, which is good enough to call it truth. The problem with that is that you can't engage in a rivalrous scenario and keep your hands completely clean. You see? No matter what happens, people are going to be able to blame you for something, okay? And another way to say this is that whenever you go fight the dragon, yeah, the dragon needs to be fought, but you're going to come back burned and scratched and injured, even if you kill the dragon, okay? You're going to get burned and scratched and injured. And that's, a lot of times people won't stand up. They don't have the bravery to stand up against this evil infiltration and deception that happens in churches, like Debbie and Marcia have done, like Lauren Swore has done, right? They don't have the courage to stand up because they know when they engage in the fight, because of the way conflicts go, they are going to be blameworthy too. There's going to be something, they didn't say something right. Somebody's going to say they should just optimize for unity and love and you hate people. I mean, a lot of it's just going to be false accusations. But it's a lot easier just to sit back and not do anything and keep yourself clean. So all the people that are sitting on the pews in that church, not doing anything, even though their conscience knows they should, they're not smoking, they're not drinking, they're not doing drugs, maybe they're not watching rated R movies, but they are committing the biggest sin they've ever committed. And the reason, like, all have sinned, there are none seeking after God, because they have no idea what to aim for. In this case, they had an opportunity for this church to actually be jolted into something approximating genuine community, rather than this forced construct around an ideology. Genuine community. Debbie and Marcia were the catalyst to perhaps bring about genuine community. But who knows what that looks like and who knows how to get there. You see, it's not that they're not putting forth the will and effort to seek God. It's that they have no idea how to do it or what to aim for. And everything they've surrounded themselves with is absolutely profane and disorienting. So they're all seeking, but they're all disoriented. So they might as well not be seeking. And the pastor's the worst one. The pastor is the cover story and the excuse for the rest of them committing the biggest sin in their life they've ever committed. Sins of omission are pretty big sins, and people still suffer for them. You sat back and did nothing while you should have stood up and done something. You could have remedied the problem a lot faster. I'm in a situation right now where it would have been a lot easier and a lot less expensive to sit back and not help some people that I'm trying to help. But because I tried to help, the stuff happens. And it's not completely clean. It's difficult and it's hard. And there's accusations. That kind of thing happens. There's a book by James Hollis called Living an Examined Life. And on page 123, he gives a long scenario of this guy who went through a situation. And he says, in the choice between A and B, where each lays legitimate claim upon our duty, the third embodies the discernment of which the choice summons us to a more developmental journey. Discernment of which choice? Which choice summons us to a more developmental journey? All right? So instead of running it against the script and saying what's following the rules and what's not, now I'm going to consider what is my developmental journey and which choice is more affordant of my developmental journey, progressing me closer to the goals that I've let out.